The smell of coal smoke and cheap whiskey hit me before the train even pulled in. That's the first thing you should know about Deadwood in the summer of 1876. It arrived at your nose before it arrived at your eyes. Smoke from the engines, whiskey from the men, sweat from the horses. And underneath all of it, if you breathed deep enough, the faint rusty smell of something that had either been bleeding recently or was about to. I'd been standing on that platform for maybe 10 minutes, minding my own business, rolling a cigarette with fingers that had done far worse things than smoke. My boots were dusty. My coat was heavy, too heavy for July, but I'd learned a long time ago that a man who dresses for the weather dies for the weather. My hat sat low over my eyes, the brim curled from years of rain and bad decisions. And my name? Well, nobody ever asked for it twice. The platform was the usual Tuesday crowd. A preacher with a Bible he hadn't opened since breakfast.
I'm just telling you, it was his cousin.
Oh, you don't say? He told me it was his brother.
A boy of maybe 9 years old sitting on a crate, kicking his heels against the wood, watching the world with the patient boredom of a child who has been told not to move and has decided to obey just long enough to seem trustworthy. Ordinary. That's what I was enjoying, honestly. The ordinariness of it. A man gets to my age, he starts to appreciate afternoons where nothing in particular happens. Where the loudest thing on the platform is a pigeon having an argument with another pigeon about a piece of bread. Neither of them was going to eat. I struck a match on my thumbnail. That's when I heard her crying.
Now, I need to explain something to you because it matters. There are two kinds of crying in this world.
There's the pretty kind. The kind women do in church when the preacher hits a word that reminds them of their mother. The kind that comes with a handkerchief already prepared. The kind where the eyes stay open and the shoulders stay still, and somebody nearby is always going to say, there, and pat a hand.
There.
That's performance crying. It's fine. It has its place.
And then there's the other kind. The ugly kind. The real kind. The kind that comes from somewhere so deep in your chest. And it embarrasses you to make it, but you can't stop it anyway because whatever broke inside you didn't ask permission before it broke. Hey, it just went.
And now here you are, making a sound you didn't know your body could make. In a place you didn't want to make it, in front of people who are pretending not to hear. That was the kind I was hearing.
I didn't turn my head right away. A man in my line of work learns not to turn his head at the first interesting sound.
Interesting sounds are how you end up interesting in the newspaper. Instead, I took a slow drag of my cigarette, let the smoke curl up past my hat brim, and I turned, just enough, to see without looking like I was seeing. She was standing near the station wall. Blue dress. The kind of blue a woman picks when she wants to look like the sky on a good day. Hair the color of autumn wheat, pinned up the way women pin it when they want to seem older than they are, and falling down now the way it always does when the pins give up. Her luggage was at her feet, not set down, spilled, open on the wooden boards like somebody had either dropped it or kicked it, and from where I was standing, I couldn't tell which yet. Letters everywhere, dozens of them, folded, unfolded, addressed in two different handwritings, hers going out, his coming back. A little ribbon that had been tied around them once lay trampled nearby, the color of a bruise, a photograph, face down in the dirt. A woman only puts a photograph face down in the dirt for one of two reasons. Either she threw it there or somebody else did, and judging by the way her hand kept twitching toward it, and then pulling back, I figured she was the one who'd thrown it. And she wasn't ready yet to decide whether she wanted to pick it back up. And a tin cup. A little tin cup. The cheap kind you buy at a general store before a long trip was rolling in a slow circle near her boot. Rolling and rolling, like it was trying to make up its mind which way to fall. I watched that cup for a second longer than I should have. Because here's the thing. When a woman's whole future has just been dumped on a train platform, sometimes the saddest thing in the whole picture isn't the letters, and isn't the dress, and isn't the face-down photograph. Sometimes it's the tin cup, because the tin cup meant she'd planned to stay. And then I saw the three of them. 3 big ones. The kind of men who get brave in groups and stupid individually. You've met them? Every town has them. They travel in packs of 3 because 2 isn't enough to feel safe, and 4 starts to feel like work. T. Hideaway Fee. Leader had a beard that hadn't been washed since president. Grant was still pretending to care about the office. It hung off his chin like something that had died on him, and he hadn't noticed yet. He was broad in the shoulders the way a barrel is broad, not from strength, just from sitting. He was leaning into her space, not touching her. Not yet, just leaning. Close enough that she had to smell his breath, which, judging by her face, was doing more damage than his words were, and he was grinning, with teeth that told a terrible story about the last 10 years of his life. "Ain't nobody coming for you, sweetheart," he growled, loud enough for the whole platform to hear. Because men like him don't cruel at a whisper. Cruelty, for them, is a performance.
Stood up at the altar and rode all the way out here for nothing. That's what we call a bad investment.
His 2 friends laughed. Not because it was funny, because that's what the 2 friends of a man like that are for.
Now, I want to be honest with you, because I think you deserve honesty, and because if I lie to you this early in the story, you won't trust me later when it matters.
I am not a hero. Heroes have names. Heroes have origin stories and dead mentors, and a reason they do what they do. Heroes have a woman waiting for them somewhere, or a horse named something noble, or a debt they're trying to pay off to the memory of a dead father. I had none of those things. I had a bad back, a good gun, a cigarette that was burning down faster than I wanted it to.
And absolutely nowhere else to be that Tuesday.
So I took one last long drag, dropped the cigarette to the platform. I ground it out slow, under the toe of my boot, and I started walking. I walked over, slow. Not fast. Fast draws attention. Fast tells people something is happening. And the moment people know something is happening, they start deciding whose side they're on. And half the time they pick wrong. Slow is different. Slow commands. My boots hit that wooden platform. Clunk, clunk, clunk. And every single footstep was one more second those 3 idiots had to reconsider their life choices. 1 second to notice, 2 seconds to wonder, 3 seconds to start sweating through a shirt they probably hadn't changed since Sunday. The platform went quiet around me, not all at once. Quiet travels like a ripple on still water. It starts in one place and spreads outward. The preacher looked up from his unopened Bible. The 2 women in bonnets stopped whispering mid-sentence, mouths still shaped around whatever word they'd been chewing on.
The old porter let his baggage cart settle onto its wheels.
Which was, I suspect,
watched
the most honest day of work he'd done in a decade. Even the boy on the crate stopped kicking his heels. The whole platform went quiet, the way people go quiet when something either beautiful or terrible is about to happen, and they haven't decided yet which one they're hoping for. I stopped about 6 feet away. 6 feet is a number I picked a long time ago. It's close enough that a man can hear you breathe. Far enough that if he reaches for something stupid, you've got time to disagree with him about it. The bearded man turned around. Now, I've been looked at with fear before. Fear, I understand. Fear is honest.
Fear is
Fear
honest.
is the body telling the brain,
Fear is the
this is a
body
bad
telling
idea.
the brain,
Please reconsider.
this is a
And
bad
most of the time,
idea.
the brain,
Please
if it's got any sense
reconsider.
left in it, listens.
But this man didn't
But
look
this
at me
man
with
didn't
fear,
look at me
Beer.
with fear.
Not yet.
Not yet.
He looked at me the way
He
a
looked at
dog
me the
looks
way
at
a
a
dog
door.
looks at a door.
Not sure if it's
Not
locked.
sure it's
Head
locked.
tilted,
Head
eyes
tilted,
narrow.
eyes narrow.
I'm trying to decide
something. Trying to
Trying
figure out if the thing in front of him was going to move, and if it moved,
which
way it was going to go. He was doing math. I let him. "This ain't your business. Stranger," he said. His voice was lower now, quieter. The performance had ended the second I stepped into the 6-foot circle. Now he was just a man trying to sound bigger than he felt. "No," I agreed. "It ain't." I took another drag of, wait. I'd already dropped the cigarette. I felt the empty space between my fingers and, for just a second, I missed it. A cigarette gives a man something to do with his hands during a conversation like this. Without one, you have to find another way. I let my hand rest, loose and easy, just above my belt. Not on the gun, above it. The difference between those 2 inches is the difference between a conversation and a funeral, and every man on that platform over the age of 12 understood it. "But," I said, "I got nothing better to do." And then came the pause. A beautiful pause. An uncomfortable pause. A sweat-producing, shirt-sticking, knee-trembling pause. The kind of pause where 3 men do math. Fast math, survival math, counting guns, counting distance, counting the look in a stranger's eyes, counting how far the sheriff's office was and whether anybody there would actually come running. I counted along with them because here's something I should tell you. Since we're being honest, I did not want them to start something. I am too old. My knees hurt. My back hurts worse. I had a ride to catch at sundown and a bottle of something dark waiting for me at the other end of it. And the last thing I wanted on a Tuesday afternoon was to spend an hour explaining to some county marshal why 3 men were lying on a train, platform with holes in them, but I also didn't move. Because the thing about men like this, men who prey on women with spilled suitcases and empty ring fingers, is that they only understand one language. And it isn't the language of please or pardon me or sir. I'd appreciate if you'd step back. It's the language of stillness.
Because here's the thing.
Of a stranger
when a woman's
who
whole
doesn't
future
blink.
has just been
A hand
dumped on a
that
train
rests 2
platform,
inches above.
sometimes the
A
saddest
gun
thing in the whole
and
picture
doesn't
isn't the
shake.
letters.
The bearded man's eyes flicked down to my hand, then back up to my face, then down to my hand. Again. Then he blinked. He blinked first. He spat on the ground. The universal language of I am leaving. But I'm pretending I chose to. A man who spits on the ground before he walks away is a man trying to sell you a story about himself that neither of you believes. He jerked his head at his friends. The 3 of them shuffled off down the platform like 3 dogs who'd been told no by a very calm voice. Not beaten, not chased, just quietly dismissed. Which is worse, honestly. A beating a man can come back from with his pride intact. A quiet dismissal travels with him all the way home. I watched them go. Brave men are dangerous. Cowards in groups are just loud furniture. Once they were around the corner of the station house and gone, I let out a breath I hadn't told myself I was holding. Then I turned to the girl. She was staring at me with those red-rimmed eyes. She'd stopped crying, which I was grateful for, because I genuinely don't know what to do when people cry. I once stood outside a widow's house for 40 minutes because I could hear her through the window and didn't know whether to knock or leave. Eventually, I just left. Felt bad about it for 3 years. You didn't have to do that, she said quietly. I know, I said. Who are you? I thought about that. My mother gave me a name once. A preacher wrote it in a book somewhere. There might be a wanted poster or 2 with something printed across the top, but I'd never verified them personally. Nobody in particular, I said. She looked down at the scattered letters, the face-down photograph. The tin cup finally settled on its side. I came all this way, she said softly. He was supposed to meet me. He wasn't there. I crouched down and started picking up her letters. Men are like trains. I told her. They're either on time or they give you a long, confusing explanation involving weather. She let out a sound, half laugh, half sob, which I counted as a victory. I stacked the letters neat. The way you stack things when you don't know what else to offer a person. She knelt down beside me and picked up the photograph, looked at it a long time. Then she set it face down again. Good girl. When everything was back in the suitcase, I stood, dusted my hat against my leg, and looked out at the train, number 42, still breathing smoke like an old man who'd just climbed stairs. Where will you go? I asked. I don't know, she said. I don't have anywhere. That's not as bad as it sounds, I said. I've been nowhere for 15 years. It grows on you. She laughed for real that time. Small, quiet, but real. And then I did something I hadn't done in longer than I could remember. I took my hat all the way off. Not a tip, not a nod. The whole thing, off my head, held against my chest. One full, honest gesture. The kind I don't give to many people, and had probably been saving up without knowing it. I put it back on, turned, walked down the platform toward the far end, where there was nothing particular waiting for me. Behind me, she called out, "Thank you! What do I call you?" I didn't turn around. "You don't," I said, "but you'll be all right." I don't know if she believed me. I don't even know if I believed me. But the train whistle blew, and the smoke rolled in, and somewhere in Deadwood in the year of our Lord 1876, a woman with a ruined dress and an empty suitcase and a face-down photograph picked herself up off a wooden platform. And that was enough for one Tuesday.